GearNetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From the Gear Network studios in Rochester, New York, this is the Listen In Podcast with your hosts, John Cimino and Brennan Gorell. And now, here's John.
It has been a long while since we've done this, and since I've played that Listen In Podcast intro there, so might need to clean that up a little bit. But
I don't even remember it.
You know, it's the Chezarade, man. Old school. But how the hell are all of you people? Welcome once again to the Listen In Podcast. John Cimino here. Brennan Gorell over there. If you are watching on the JC Money Show Patreon page, which right now you're not, because I haven't really fully made the push on it yet. But if you are a Tier 2 member on there, you're going to be able to see these videos. Otherwise, you just get the audio. And then if you're Tier 1 member, you get the audio without the commercials. But hey, we are here. Brandon, welcome back to the podcast, my dude. How on earth have you been?
Busier. I can't say it now. I was going to say it, but I don't want to get us canceled. I was going to use the old George Carlin bit where he opened up a show. And I mean, you could bleep it.
You can. I could bleep it. Yeah, whatever. Go ahead and say it. I know the old.
As George Carlin used to say, he used to say, busier than a in a hardware store.
Oh, that's great. That's good.
Back in the Carlin. 80s when you can say that stuff.
Carlin was a prophet.
People were just kind of like, eh.
He really was a prophet, though. Carlin was. As close to it. He's closer to it than Moses and all those clowns were. But in any event,
still to me, probably the GOAT.
Yeah. Let's see here. What is this?
Only guy that I've ever seen like reinvent himself and his career 3 times.
Yes, indeed.
Most people do the same shtick, and then they kind of go away and they just walk away with their money.
Well, in the wrestling, in the pro wrestling world, if people do the same shtick for 20 years, they end up in the garage. They're a garage wrestling shitty shows with shittier talent. So, knowing that now,
mayor of some small town.
Oh, good old yes, indeed. Yes, you're talking about Kane.
I sure am.
But they're actually, believe it or not, there was a local
old wrestler.
There was a former local pro wrestler. I use that term very loosely. That shockingly, I had an issue with. And
Mayor Bill Johnson?
No, Bill Johnson. Mayor Bill Johnson. He wouldn't have lasted in the ring.
Barry.
No, but there was someone else that ended up attempting to run for the mayor of Lake Wales, Florida. And my wrestling fan, my longtime Next Era wrestling people probably will know exactly who I'm talking about. But he had a failed bid for mayor, and then he got arrested for domestic abuse. And now he's a member. Last I knew, he was a member of city council there. After all of that, so yeah, it's Florida.
I guess you get a demotion. To city council,
maybe
you get to be mayor with a domestic violence thing.
That is
you get
true.
To do that, or you get to play linebacker for the Bills.
Oh yes, indeed. Flavor Flav, give me a yeah boy for that. Yeah boy. Oh man, speaking of the Bills,
it's getting crazy in Buffalo, isn't it?
It is getting a little crazy.
Kind of a weird
Buffalo.
year. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yes, indeed. And
it started off with that whole rumor of Josh Allen and his longtime girlfriend splitting up, and the rumor is that he knocked up some bartender, and
and that was why Steph Diggs kind of got a little upset with him at that game. Get your head in the game and all that. I remember that.
There's that, and then there's the Diggs not coming to meetings, the the optional OTAs, and people wondering if he wants to be out of there.
He's a prima donna. They should trade him away. He's a prima donna. Buffalo don't want him.
Yeah,
Buffalo needs.
Keeps getting weirder, man. They have weird losses.
Do you? Now you know what it is. I've never really subscribed to the whole theory of the Madden curse, but if I did, this would.
Does it usually take on a team though? It usually takes on an individual player.
It takes on an individual player, but if that individual player means as much to a team as Josh Allen does to the Buffalo Bills. I mean, Ryan and I talk about this, by the way.
But he's not playing bad, though.
No, he's not playing bad.
Like, he's the number 2 quarterback as far as yards. He's number 2 in touchdowns, all behind Dak Prescott, who's, kind of had a feasting day on some pretty bad teams.
Yeah.
Even though he's playing really well, I don't discount what Dak Prescott's doing right now.
Of course.
If I believed in the Madden curse, I would expect that he had been like injured, he'd miss a lot of time, or he'd be, playing like dog shit. He's not doing either of those things. So I don't know, man. I don't know if the Bills were supposed to be on there and they just threw Josh Allen on because he can't just have a team.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
It's a weird year over there.
I am hoping we get Ryan Wolf from Trust the Podcast, my Trust the Podcast buddy, to hop on here.
A longer podcast if he comes on here and starts talking about the Bills.
Well, I think he's going to be talking specifically about the story that came out about
never forgetting.
Old Sean, yes, not never forgetting. Well done there, Sean McDermott and his 9/11 remarks in 2019. But first,
I wonder if Sean McDermott walks down in New York City by the 9/11 memorial and just starts
clapping,
because he claps all the time. Calls a timeout and he. Guys make a play, other team scores.
Yeah,
it's always he's taken over for Jason Garrett. He went to the Jason Garrett school of sideline clapping.
Yeah, he indeed has done that. And Ryan and I have been talking about this all year with them. Yeah. And Ryan, well, I don't know if he's going to change his tune now after what came out, but I think that he is I think he's over McDermott, and we've talked about it in Trust Podcast, and I really hope he hops.
I know
on here.
People who are over him. A lot of Bills fans are.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think the thought process is they think they hit the ceiling.
Yeah,
with McDermott.
Sometimes the message gets stale too, especially when you get to a certain point and you don't get any further, and you actually start to regress. I'm seeing it in hockey, my Pittsburgh Penguins, I think it's time for a change at head coach. Mike Sullivan is a hell of a head coach. He's a great head coach. He's got a great record, won 2 Stanley Cups with Pittsburgh, but ever since that second Stanley Cup and when they went for their third run and they lost narrowly to Washington, they just kind of ran out of gas. Mm-hmm. Ever since then, they have not gotten out of the first round. Last year, they didn't make the playoffs at all. This year, they're off to a pretty miserable start. They're
on a scale of 1 of the Calgary Flames. How miserable is their start?
I mean, they're at pretty much 500 right now.
They're 6th in the metropolitan.
In the
Flames
metro in their division. But if you look at the wild card standings, even just to get out in a wild card, they're 3 points behind Toronto, but they have 3 games in hand on Toronto. So Toronto could win 2 of those and that balloons to 7 points without us even playing another game.
Oy.
They're not great right now. So, they're 11-11-3. They're break-even hockey right now.
Right.
But they've lost their last 3. They just look listless on some nights, and they just kind of they lean on, Sidney Crosby at 36 years old to kind of do everything.
Right.
And he is doing everything, but he only can play so much during a game. The other guys have to kind of step up, and power play has been abysmal. I just think it's time for a shakeup. There's a lot of talent there, and there's a lot of good hockey still left. Sometimes a message goes stale
now
because it's the same message. Most coaches, they don't change much. They change few things. They make tweaks and stuff, but their overall philosophy stays the same. It's called Trust the Podcast, but it's the Trust the Process thing. How long is this process going to take? It's like the Philadelphia 76ers. Remember how they had that head coach who was with them, Mike Brown disciple, Greg Popovich's disciple.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
They drafted Embiid, and then they had all these top tier players, and they were young, and they were like, we're just gonna, we gotta trust the process. We gotta trust the process, and you trusted the process for a good 7-8 years. Now you're 7 years into your young guy's career. He's now hit his prime, and you guys have hit a wall completely. And you haven't gotten over that hump, and they've changed coaches now twice since the trust the process, and it's the same players.
Yep.
It's not getting there. The 76ers aren't any closer to a championship now than they are, 4 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Right.
So I think that with the Buffalo Bills, I think that they have gotten to their ceiling as far as where McDermott can take them. And you start to see the writing on the wall with guys like this when they start firing coordinators.
Right. Yep.
So he had
Leslie Frazier in the offseason wasn't fired.
Leslie Frazier.
But...
Yeah. That was one of those, hey, you can walk away, wink, wink. I have a feeling that Mike Sullivan will be a wink, wink, like he's going to resign. They're going to let him leave with his pride intact instead of saying they fired him. But they're going to have that conversation and be like, hey, listen, things aren't going the way they are supposed to go. Maybe you should take a break.
Maybe.
And
all right.
I think that's what McDermott did with Frazier. And then, now he's running the defense. They canned the coordinator because
Dorsey,
I guess wasn't happy with his offensive.
No can do.
So Ken goes away.
I've seen all those stupid,
and they look
attitudes.
A little better on offense, but the only reason they look a little better is because they're more balanced. They're running the ball more. They're not putting everything on Josh Allen. But then when that starts to improve, and then you look again, and they're still losing, and you look at some of the the schemes and the timing of blitzes and stuff, that doesn't come from the offensive coordinator.
Of course,
that would come from the defensive coordinator, which is the head coach now.
12 men on the field.
Coach is out here blowing timeouts, the stupidest thing in the world is the ice the kicker move.
Yep.
It doesn't work. It worked one time in history, and everyone's like,
I would love for as much as I'm not a big fan of the tush push or the brotherly shove or whatever it's called. I would rather see ice the kicker banned first before the brotherly shove, because it's just a waste of time.
You want to waste your time out, go for it. I don't really care. But in that instance, it hurt the team.
Right.
Because instead of having 22 seconds left, 21 seconds, whatever it was, and the ball, you could have fair caught it and then got the ball at the 25. You need what? 25 yards?
Yeah.
To get your first chunk.
Roughly, yeah.
You can get that in a couple of plays.
Sure.
And with 2 timeouts, the middle of the field's wide open. They had been hitting Kincaid all game. So the fact that if you can get on the other side of the 50 and go for a long kick, 60 yards. Didn't think 60 yards was going to work the other way, and it did. And why not take a shot? But instead, he realized, I only got 1 timeout. We're just going to take a knee on it. Those are the kind of things that they're little things that annoy fans, but it also, I think, eats away at players, because players are like, well, you're just not allowing us to compete. You didn't believe that we can get down the field and get into position to do that. You wanted to play the safe road and try to get to overtime and then hope for the best there. And they were hoping that Josh Allen would get him down the field and get a touchdown and then, hold them from, getting in the end zone and, see where the chips lie. But honestly, I feel like he's way too conservative. He's definitely playing like someone who feels like he's about to get fired.
Yes.
And when you play like that, when you play not to lose, you lose. You get tight. You make mistakes. You do stupid stuff because you're so focused on not getting fired that you kind of lose the sense of what got you there in the first place.
Sure.
And then when you see leaks like this came out from a story of 2019, which is 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's
to see
usually
that come out and someone to leak that means you've lost the locker room too.
Yes.
Because if it's been under wraps for that long and nobody said anything about it, it's because you're winning, everyone's chill, everyone's cool. we're seeing progress. We're getting the, AFC title games. No one really wants to let this stuff slip because, it's a distraction.
Right.
But at this point, people are kind of like, I think people in the locker room are kind of like,
they're done.
I'm fucking tired of this guy. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like it might be time for a change. And, we've heard that it's, this coordinator, it's that coordinator. Results are the same. They're actually getting worse.
Right.
Like they think it's addition by subtraction, but it just continues to be a subtraction. Like,
of course. Yeah. And now when you look at it right now, the Bills are 6-6 at this point right now. They're got the Chiefs next.
Territory.
They've got the Chiefs next, 4:25 on Sunday. The following week,
do some makeup calls.
The following week, they have the Cowboys. That's going to be a big test for both teams, really. The Chargers, which they should win that one. The Patriots.
I think all three are winnable games. All four really are all winnable
Patriots,
games.
And then they close out the season with the Dolphins. So knowing that
and
schedule,
had Miami's number. So
right. But
there's
by
a
that
scenario
point,
where that can go 5-0, but there's also a scenario where they can go 1-4.
Right. And I think the magic number at this point now is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's see. Miami win. If Miami were to win next week, they could lose 1, 2, 3, 4. They could really lose the rest of the season. The Bills lose one more game, they're done. Miami
division.
would win. Miami
I don't
would win
think
the
they're
division.
looking at the division anymore. I think they're looking at the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think the division's unrealistic. Given that Miami they feasted on pretty bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest about it.
Everyone
wants to give them their props and they want to crown these guys and talk about it. But I mean, their 3 losses were a bad one, 48-20 to the Bills. They lost to the Eagles 31-17, and then they lost to the Chiefs 21-14 in Germany. That's it. That's their 3 losses. But their wins are against the Chargers in the first week by 2 points in a shootout. They beat the Patriots by a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the living shit out of Denver, but that was Denver when they were playing absolute ass juice.
Right.
They beat the Giants 31-16. They beat the Panthers 42-21. They beat the Patriots again at the same score, 31-17. Actually, they got more of a touchdown. Then they beat the Raiders 20-13 in a tight one because the Raiders are playing better.
Mm-hmm.
And then they beat the Jets, who are kind of hapless at the moment.
Kind of.
And then you got the Commanders. And then they beat the Commanders.
Yeah.
But then you look at the remaining schedule. They got the Titans left. Not really convinced the Titans are very good.
Mm-hmm.
They got the Jets again on the 17th. Then they got the Cowboys. Tough game. They got the Ravens.
That's gonna be a big
tough
one.
Game.
That could be wild. That could be the first
preview.
Yeah, exactly. That could be number 1 seed.
Yeah. So there's that game, and then they have the Bills to finish up the season. So they got a tougher schedule, but they've got those 2 cupcakes right in the beginning that kind of make me think that the division is out of reach for Buffalo. If you're a Bills fan right now, you got to look at, what do we got to do to get in the playoffs?
Right.
The division is nice, but honestly, unless you're the number 1 seed, all you're getting is an extra home game.
Right.
You're not getting any extra benefit other than, getting a home game, which we saw they were home last year against Cincinnati, and it didn't help them a damn bit. Cincinnati waxed them. So if you look at the standings for the playoffs, though, they have to get in this top 7. And if you look at 5, 6, and 7, they're all 7-5 right now, but they all have big time warts.
Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and
has
Indianapolis.
No Kenny Pickett right now.
Mm-hmm.
He just had ankle surgery, so it's the Mitch Trubisky show.
Oh,
we all know what the Mitch Trubisky show is.
We sure do, and so does Buffalo.
So he
learned under Josh, though, Brandon.
Yeah,
he learned under Josh.
He didn't learn much because he lost his job to a rookie, and not a hugely impressive rookie either. On top of that, so you got the Steelers, then you got the Browns, who are relying on Joe Flacco right now to try to keep their season alive.
That is unreal to me.
Or they might go back to the rookie Dorian Thompson, Robinson. So they may go back to him if he's healthy. Who knows? So they're kind of a mess. And then you have the Colts, who are riding the wave again of Minshew Mania. That thing's fun until it's not anymore.
Right.
It's fun when he's, pulling games out of his ass that he should have lost against the Tennessee Titans, who are 4-8 right now.
Right.
But when it comes to like actually playing real teams, they might be in trouble.
Sure.
And then you got the Houston Texans there at 7-5, which Houston, everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop on them. They've been a great story. CJ Stroud's played his balls off.
Yeah.
That team probably is going to be one of my picks to get in though, because they're young enough where they, they're just going to keep playing. So you got to look at it and go, okay, so what's left with Buffalo? Buffalo is currently in the 11th spot because they got Denver and Cincinnati ahead of them because they've lost to both those teams.
Yep.
But if you look at those teams, do you really believe in Denver or Cincinnati? Cincinnati's running with a backup right now.
I don't.
If Trevor Lawrence doesn't get stepped on by his center, Cincinnati's probably 5-7 right now. And 6-6.
Yes. I would agree that the loss of Burrow was
huge.
Massive for them.
And the fact that Denver still has Russell Wilson is probably not a good thing for them either. I hate the fucking guy. I can't stand him.
I know you can't.
On the planet.
You don't like Mr. Unlimited
on the sideline either. I don't like that guy either. So, I mean, really, all three of those teams could drop out, and you could see Houston, Denver, and either Buffalo or Cincinnati slide into those positions. But Buffalo has work to do, and they've got to, they've kind of put themselves behind the proverbial 8 ball by losing games to Denver, losing games to Cincinnati. In games that they should have won if they made just one more play. The game against Philadelphia, if they made one more play, they'd win the game.
So if I may really quickly, because of this new upgraded audio stuff that I have here, I do have a small little soundbite I'd like to play for you.
Mr. Unlimited.
No. God, I hate that guy. Dude, he's the biggest cornball. Like, I can't stand him. But then you look at the losses Buffalo's had, like the heartbreaker on opening night. The loss to Jacksonville because they just couldn't stop. They couldn't stay out of their own damn way.
Opening night was a heartbreaker for me.
Points.
Forget about Buffalo. It was a heartbreaker for me as a Jets fan.
You guys, you had your heart broken while winning. Like, normally you'd be doing backflips if you beat the Bills.
Right. Yeah, no.
But instead it was like in mourning.
I ugly cried. There's the first time I've ugly cried in a football game in I don't know how long. But I was so pissed with that. And just even more as I began to see it, because I've seen the Jets play out. I've seen every possible scenario now officially after this season. With the Jets and how that's played out. I was heartbroken by that. I went into work the next day. A bunch of Bills fans were there. They were somber because they lost, but they were like, dude, I'm sorry, man.
Because it was so exciting and you got like one series and it all just.
And then the dominoes continued to fall as they did. And that's just life.
Again, like they brought in Hackett because he has a rapport with Rodgers. Rodgers will take his calls and knows how to manipulate those calls in order to, find a more favorable thing on the field. They built this offense to go around Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Someone who can really think quickly, who can diagnose the defense really fast, make on-the-fly decisions, a Hall of Fame veteran.
Sure.
And the fact that they had to turn to Zach Wilson, it's not a slight against Zach. I think still that Zach is going to be a good quarterback in this league. It's just going to take some time. You can't really judge a quarterback until at least year 4. Year 1, you get lucky with like guys like Stroud. They're 1 in a million. Andrew Luck coming out and balling was 1 in a million. I mean, Peyton Manning sucked balls his first season.
Yeah.
He threw so many freaking interceptions. They won 3 freaking games.
Right.
Like, they were terrible. Some guys figure it out in year 2 and start to make some progress. Some guys don't. Some guys, show really good flashes in that first year, and then year 2, they kind of have that sophomore slump. Year 3, they start to like kind of show like which direction they're going to go. And then year 4 is like, okay, this is your package. This is what he's going to be. This is who he is.
Right.
He's either going to keep getting better or he's just
and I don't think the Jets have done Zach Wilson any favors.
They have done
at all.
0 favors.
They've done him 0. Same thing. It's unpopular amongst the Jets community. Anybody that defends Zach Wilson, the same way that I defended Sam
They're
Darnold.
Still mad about Mark Sanchez. Like,
yeah, right.
They're still mad about all that stuff. Like,
yeah,
Jets fans are bitter as fuck, and they have every reason to be. But like,
yes, but in the same,
angry at the right people, not.
My anger has always been directed, as a Jets fan, has always been directed at ownership. It's always been directed there because they did nothing to protect Sam Darnold when they had him.
No.
They had the opportunity there, and not let's make no mistake about it.
Coaches have they gone through? Too?
Exactly. Like, they haven't had the same system there. Now, I will say
I had to talk you down off the ledge the other day when you're like, I've had enough of Salah. I'm like, whoa, take it easy. The guy has had results. His players are behind him. He's a good coach. He's in a bad circumstance right now because the front office. They had this pie in the sky belief that Aaron Rodgers and his crew of Green Bay East was going to come in here and they were just going to be the magic solution to your drought and that everything was going to be great. But they ignored big things. They ignored
namely the offensive line.
The offensive line is a shit show.
And that was one thing that I explained to anyone that would within earshot that would listen. That it would be like, oh well, Zach Wilson's. I'm like, no, it doesn't matter who you have back there. You could bring the ghost of Joe Montana's past back and put him back there, and he'd be running for his life and throwing interceptions or
Joe in that back would be back on the DL again.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Montana would not hold up on that line. Like it's rough, and people don't understand that. Like, good quarterbacks are good. They're great to have. Good wide receivers are great to have. It's a huge compliment to your offensive scheme if you have a great running game. But it all is driven by one part. The big part of the engine, you can have the best looking wheels, best rim, best body, best trim package, all that stuff. But if your engine is dog shit, which is your offensive line, you ain't going anywhere.
Exactly.
That car ain't moving. It's just going to look nice in the driveway.
100%.
But if you can't drive that car and get away from shit coming at it, that thing's going to get beat to hell.
Exactly.
And that's what happened to Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's on what, his third coordinator now? In 3 years? And how many times has he been out?
I think it's his second. I think Darnold. I think Darnold had multiple. I think Darnold had three coordinators in 3 years. I think this is. I could be wrong. This could be.
They use the same guy for 2 years and then bring in Hackett.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I believe that.
We're saying the guy because he was that memorable.
Yeah, I mean exactly. I don't remember who the hell the OC was before that. I just know that the offensive line is terrible, and I have said this repeatedly. And I felt this, and I've even seen this during the course of the year when Zach was protected. He would drive them down the field.
Against Kansas City.
Exactly. Like, I mean, not even that.
What he did against the Eagles.
The Eagles, right? He was the one in the Eagles. 9-1. Now they're 9-2 or 10-2. But he was the one. The Jets were the one there. So I don't think Zach is the problem. I never did.
Denver too.
He's running for his life, and that's the problem that they've been having there. So what I'm going to do here, though, is we're gonna kind of leave it at that with the Jets. There's more to come, I'm sure, with the Jets. But what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and go to a quick commercial break. Yeah, check that out. Like that. Soulful Christmas. 'Tis the season. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Brandon's Green Bay Packers, my man, because you and the Jordan Love train, you've been high on him for a while, and the rest of the world seems to not be, so I don't know. We'll talk about that on the other side of this. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, we are back here on the Listen In podcast. See how that worked? If you were on again the Patreon page, which I haven't really fully launched yet, but if you are on the Patreon page, then you just heard it go straight through. But you're not. You're on the free feed, and I thank you. But John Cimino here, Brandon Gorell there. All right, my man. Let's talk about. I still haven't heard back from Ryan, so I don't know that we're going to get
That's
that.
Okay. He's going to have his whole podcast to talk about that 9/11 story.
I can't wait for it. I am going to be. I'm honestly. I am going to be.
Especially if they lose this week, like he is. It's going to be like angry.
I told him last podcast too.
If they win, it'll be funny. It'll be more comedic.
Sure.
But if they lose, he's going to be like.
I told him the last podcast. I interrupted him because I let him. It was I can't remember what was the loss.
Like McDermott is the worst thing since.
It was the Eagles' loss. Actually, it was the Eagles' loss, and like the first. I don't know, 5-10 minutes of the show was just
They still
him.
Lost the bye week this week.
Yeah. They really did. Von Miller.
You go to the Bills page and it's like the top 2 stories on ESPN. It's Sean McDermott apologizing for 9/11 comments and Von Miller's no comment on domestic abuse. It's it sure is. Look, how was the rest, boys?
For those able to see. Just to show you, he's not lying. It's right there. It's Bill's coach apologized for 9/11 remarks, and then Bill's Miller declines comment on assault charge. Like unbelievable.
If ever there was a week that somebody needed to throw a dildo on the field, this is the week.
This is the
week. They need that distraction in Buffalo.
One of the all-time greatest moments in profession, not just a football. And
it wasn't even one of those
professional football.
It wasn't even one of those ones where you had to like see the photos afterwards, where somebody took a picture from the stands to like show it because it didn't make it on TV.
Right.
It made it on national TV, and we were like sitting there in the same room together, like. Was that a fucking dildo that just flew on the field? And then you see it in slow motion. You rewinded it back and you watched it. And you just see it heaved from the stands, like flopping through the air, hits the fucking deck. And that referee that just comes over and just kind of scoots it off.
Nonchalantly kicks it with his foot, just scooting it right off the field. It's still, oh my God.
Straight up MVP right there.
I laughed about that for hours. It was that damn funny.
It was so good.
In the entire 100-year, however long the NFL has been around, that ranks up there easily top 3 moments in league history. All right.
Yeah.
Right behind, of course, I Want to Kiss You from good old Joe Willie to Susie Colbert. All right, buddy. Let's talk about your Packers, man. Green Bay. So, beginning of the season, Rodgers over to the Jets, right?
Yeah.
It's rebuild. It's over, right? The Packers are going to be garbage this season, right? Jordan Love has these unbelievable shoes to fill. God forbid he farts in the wrong direction and everybody's like, oh, guy, he's terrible. He's this or he's this, whatever. But wait a minute. There's some good football playing going on there. There's good playing going on by Jordan Love. And yet the hatred, and I don't know if it's just a Green Bay quarterback thing. Like I don't know that because Aaron Rodgers, he still gets the hate. And but he always had the hate. When it went from Favre to Rodgers, it was, oh, when are they going to give Rodgers a chance? And they give Rodgers a chance, they start hating the dude, right?
Yeah.
And then it would, kind of,
it's the recency bias, because we just came off of an NFC title game like that. We went to overtime, and it just, if the temperature had been like 10 degrees warmer, we may have won that game. But Favre looked every bit as old as he possibly could in, -7, game time temperature start with wind chills in the -20s.
Yep. Such a classic game that was, though. That was, with the result aside, what a scene that game was. That was one of my favorite games to watch. And I wouldn't
Donald Driver.
Yeah. Oh. I would not have wanted to be at that game physically.
No,
but it was great television.
Mm-hmm.
And Favre and the Packers versus the undefeated Patriots with Brady. What a Super Bowl that would have been.
Yeah,
That would have been
like people
fantastic.
watched the Giants one, but I think that if you had Brett Favre as the other quarterback, it becomes a massive story.
Absolutely.
So many years, absent of being in a Super Bowl, finally getting back there as the old veteran with the new coach and, kind of revived his career. And you're going against the undefeated Patriots. Like that would have been wild, but it didn't happen, alas. So there was a lot of recency bias. When Rodgers came in, it was like, well, we still kind of liked Favre. Like, Favre's been here for so long.
Sure.
He's been a warm security blanket. And yeah, we've been frustrated with him sometimes, but it's, like the family dog. You still love the thing and you
Right. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want it around. And when
Of
it's
course.
gone, you're kind of like, this is a new fucking dog. I don't like this little piece of shit. Get out of my face with your wanting treats. So, when Rodgers came in, and especially since they went from an NFC Championship game to 5-11, in his first season, like, people were clamoring for the other guy, and they missed him, and then all of a sudden Rodgers started clicking, and the team started winning, and they got to the playoffs for the first time with him, and the rest is history. After that, you get a Super Bowl, and people forget, and now they're recency bias is with Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
So Aaron, has gone off like, yeah, we had a bad off season last year. We still had a chance to go to the playoffs, but didn't capitalize on it in the last game of the season. And it just felt like it was time for everybody. Felt like it was time for Green Bay. It felt like it was time for Aaron. And, there was a lot of talk that Aaron was just going to hang him up. And he, found new motivation, whatever it be. If he, pro athletes, especially elite ones, will look for any kind of slight to give him motivation.
Sure.
And, he's claiming that, he never got a phone call or they didn't answer his call, whatever it be. And that pissed him off. So he was motivated to go play somewhere else. And he chose the Jets. And, when he left, he didn't leave in a bad way. He didn't say bad things about the team on the way out the door. The team didn't say bad things about him on the way out the door. It was a mutual parting. It was something that needed to happen, because it seemed like neither was going to get to where they wanted to be in their current situation.
Right. And to your point there, that's why I don't think Aaron Rodgers retires after this season. I think he comes back.
So either.
I think he comes back to New York next year.
He's 100% going to be back next year.
And I think he's this. We were talking about the prove.
And you're going to have a revamped, offensive line.
Oh yeah, I have to imagine.
There's going to be changes still made.
Absolutely.
But he will be back next year. There's no doubt. I'm 100% certain that he will be playing next year.
I will say this though, when I got Madden 24. That's what it is, right? It's 24 now, right?
Yeah.
Madden 24. I, of course, took the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers, I shit you not, had the most brilliant season of seasons. Literally, because true to life, there wasn't a whole lot in the running game and all that. So I just straight up passed. Aaron Rodgers threw like 6,000 yards and 80 touchdowns, and took him to the Super Bowl. Took him to the Super Bowl, and then he retired after that on Madden 24. And
if he would have got a Super Bowl this year, I would have definitely seen him. Next year.
Yeah, for sure.
But the fact that he blew out his Achilles the first week and is fighting to beat back the experts and actually even get on a field this year, tells me all you need to know about what he's going to do next year.
Yeah, that's the hope. First and foremost, I hope he is okay to play, and I hope he is okay.
I don't think he's not going to go out. I don't think he's going to go out and play if he can't.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of
the same thing when he was in Green Bay. Like, he had that shoulder injury, he broke his clavicle, and it was looking like it was going to be only a 6-week injury, but he ended up taking 8 weeks because he wasn't ready. So he is usually smart about that stuff. And he was saying on McAfee that, like, they're going to reassess the situation, when it's the, what was it, the 24th is when he was talking about, or 17th or something like that. Whatever that Washington Commanders game is.
The 26th.
So that's where he's been kind of circling for a while.
I'm sorry, 24th. 26th is a Tuesday.
Yeah, so he was circling that day for a while. But if you guys are completely out of contention,
we will be
mathematically eliminated.
We will be.
Then he said
there is no way they're beating the Texans at 1 o'clock on Sunday.
He'll probably maybe he'll go out for a series or two and then just say, hey, I did it. F you, science.
Yeah.
And get ready for next year.
Yep.
But yeah, so with him leaving, it was just time. Like they'd been to, the playoffs with 2-13-3 records. Well, 13-4. They had that second season where they started the 17-game schedule and they kind of sat everybody for the final game against the Lions because they'd already clinched the number 1 seed.
Sure.
But they went to the NFC title game, lost to Brady and then the Bucks in a pretty awesome game.
Mm-hmm.
It sucked the way it ended. And then, the following year they go and they have the divisional round against the 49ers and they kind of lay an egg on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And then special teams blew up in their face and they lost that game. And so then they come the next season and Devontae Adams is gone and they draft some young kids and Aaron wasn't quite, jiving with those guys and it just didn't work out.
Right.
And what people didn't realize and what people didn't understand, what Green Bay did and is doing is what all teams should be doing, but they don't.
Yes.
And it's usually ego driven.
Yes.
It's usually they cater to the fan base.
I know exactly.
Think that like, hey, we're this close to a Super Bowl. We need to get some free agents in here. We need to get some veterans to help, get us over the finish line. He did that. When he first came in, like Ted Thompson was notorious for never signing any free agents. The only free agent that he signed were 2 players. They were Charles Woodson and Julius Peppers.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the only big name free agents that he ever put his hands on. Ted Thompson was a build through the draft guy. That was his mantra. Best guy on the board. That's who we're taking.
I think part of that too, what helps there with Green Bay, as opposed to a place like New York with the media, is the media market. Not being,
sure.
Green Bay being the original title town, but being where it is in
right.
Wisconsin. That helps as far as the patience level is concerned from the fan base. And then as well, the media coverage is not as intense as it is in New York. I think that helped that cause a bit, but because of that helped create that sustainability that you now see carrying on. Well, yeah, generation after generation.
To a degree, but there are a lot of smaller market teams that still stink, and they've stunk for a long time. Right. Detroit's finally getting their flowers and they're starting to play, respectable ball.
You're right.
But I mean, that's not a huge football market. Like, it's not a huge media market. It's a media market. It's not, it's not Green Bay, but like nowhere else is. So they, there's a lot of teams that just have not done well as far as drafting, building an organization, key free agency signings, not breaking the bank on the next shiny thing or whatever.
Sure.
Or, sending a bunch of money to a guy who is probably past his prime, but was like a superstar at one point, like getting Julio Jones is now.
Yep.
And, getting like an Odell Beckham Jr. Like, yeah, he's going to give you a few plays, but he's not going to give you what he used to. It's not the name that it used to be. So when Green Bay started this plan in motion, it was after, they had a pretty bad season with Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
He was out, brought in this new kid. But when they did that, they decided to draft a quarterback because they saw the calendar. They know how old Aaron is. They know that Father Time is undefeated.
Right, yeah.
So they saw a kid that they had a lot of belief in, but also have the time to be patient with it because they know they still had a great quarterback.
Right, yeah.
They knew he was under contract. They knew he wasn't going anywhere. And while they did that, they went and signed Zadarius Smith. They signed Preston Smith to big deals. They got, guys to help out on defense. That was the big gripe that, Rodgers had for so long, is that we need some help on defense. We need some help on defense. We're scoring 30 points in the game. We're losing 35-30.
Yep.
So they, Gutekunst said, hey, I'm going to help you out on defense. Aaron even said it that first night. He's like, we got a defense. Like
I do remember
excited.
that.
It was on Sunday Night Football, and he was like, "We got a defense now." Like he was excited for it. They did help, but he was also at the same time like drafting defensive players in the first round, and everyone was like, "Well, how come you didn't draft a wide receiver?" What people don't understand is that drafting a wide receiver in the mid-20s of the first round is not much difference than drafting a wide receiver in the second or third round.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You're going to get the elite receivers in 1 through 5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 10 if it's a big, heavy quarterback.
Marvin Harrison Jr., prime example. If he were to go in the draft, this year,
he doesn't know
top 5.
He's going to do it.
Yeah, sorry, Chicago.
He kind of wants to go back to Ohio State. He wants to beat Michigan, and
admirable.
So
that's good, but that's because he knows.
People are bitching though too, like saying, like this is a really stupid idea because you're leaving a lot of money on the table. What if you get injured? It's like, bro, there's like. I think I've got like
he's young and his name is Marvin Harrison.
Pinkies. I've got less pinkies than people that I know of that went back to college for their senior year, got injured, and never played in the NFL again.
Right. Yes. But I mean, we're in a different era.
Today's technology,
right?
Either.
We're in a different era of medical science. We are in a different era, just in general, of knowledge, awareness around injuries and things like that, strength conditioning,
things like
right?
That.
But also
guys know how to protect themselves,
right? But also
like protect these guys too. And
his name is Marvin Harrison,
right?
Dude's going to be in the NFL,
right?
That's just the way it is.
He's going to be a top 5 pick,
exactly,
easily,
exactly.
So what Green Bay did was that they went and they drafted receivers in the second and third round, and they drafted defensive players. And some of those, after they, had drafted Jordan Love, some of those players, you may know these guys: Jair Alexander, Rashawn Gary. Yep. Like those are big names for this defense that are contributing.
I love Jair.
But a lot of the smaller names of guys have contributed too, and he's been drafting defense. They have 7 number 1 draft picks, first round draft picks on their defense right now. And it's showing because they're a top 10 defense right now. Even though they're extremely young and guys are just starting to come into their own. They've got a lot of first and second year players on defense. Here's another example of it this year. We lose we lose Aaron Rodgers, and they're like, oh, we got to get Jordan Love some help. What do? First draft at number 13, they grabbed Lucas Van Ness from Iowa, defensive end. And guess what? He's making an impact. He sacked Mahomes in the red zone the other day. And it was a big key moment because it made him settle for a field goal.
Sure. Yep.
That could have won the game for them. They've gone and they've drafted all these receivers in the second and third round, all their guys, second, third, fourth round guys. Dontavian Wicks, who a lot of people are comparing to Devontae Adams right now. His route running, his hands are so strong. He's just high rated right now. He was drafted 5th round.
Okay.
Like these guys exist, but everyone in like the media and like the fandom and Twitterverse, they get all obsessed. Like, we got to have these guys. We got to have these guys. You got to have offense. You got to have offense. You got to have offense. But like defense is still something that wins championships.
Yes, it did.
Good
and in some cases keeps teams in a game, like the New York Jets all season with their defense. Their defense is stellar. That's why they thought
Aaron Rodgers coming in and playing only half as good as he has in Green Bay. He doesn't need to be an MVP. But he can be in the top 5 in MVP voting, and this team can go to a Super Bowl because of our defense.
Okay, so let me ask this because we are approaching time here.
Yeah.
Green Bay 6-6, Minnesota 6-6, Detroit 9-3.
Yeah.
Green Bay coming off of a major win. You and I talked about this privately. Back-to-back major wins against the Lions and then against the Chiefs. They have the Giants, Bucks, Panthers, Vikings, and Bears left. Relatively easy schedule, you would think. So with that being said, looking at the Lions schedule, they got the Bears next. Probably going to beat them there. The Broncos, they're probably going to beat them. Vikings, probably going to beat them. They got the Vikings twice.
They do.
And then the Cowboys as well.
That was the most laughable part of Monday Night Football when the Bears and Vikings were playing their "we don't want it, you take it" game,
Yeah.
where everyone just kept turning the damn ball over.
Yeah.
And then the Bears won by default after Josh Dobbs threw him 4 interceptions, like trying to gift him the game, and they still almost fumbled the bag, literally.
So
they were
with that
talking
being
about
said,
on that broadcast the whole time was, don't count Minnesota out on the division. They've got Detroit left 2 more times, and I'm like, we just beat Detroit's ass. We're a game out of that playoff spot. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm going, hey, before we even played Detroit, I was like, if we can steal 1 of 2 from Detroit or Kansas City, we set up very nicely for those last 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
They're all very winnable games. And if you looked at Green Bay all year, outside of the Minnesota game and the Detroit game the first time, they're all 1-score games. They easily, right now, instead of being 6-6, could be 9-3.
Right. Now,
they very easily could be.
So looking at the National Football Conference, Green Bay right now is number 7.
They will be the 6th seed.
They will be the 6th seed. Do you see a possibility that Green Bay wins the division, or is it more realistic?
No.
Wild card.
No, it's wild card. I don't see Detroit losing 3 games. Even though Detroit has not played great, it's going to take 3 losses out of their final 5 games. I don't see it happening.
2 of those games being against Minnesota. Those are and one with the Bears. Yeah. Okay.
I don't see them losing it.
But do you see Green Bay, in spite of all of that, wild card team?
Yeah, they're going to be the wild card team. They're going to be the 6th seed, I believe. I think they'll leapfrog Minnesota. Minnesota's got 2 games versus Detroit left. Minnesota may not even make the playoffs, to be honest. Like, those 2 Detroit games could be deciders whether they even make the playoffs or not. They also play the Cincinnati Bengals, and they play the Raiders, who are coming on too. So they don't have an easy pack. And they have the Packers on Sunday night on New Year's Eve too.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, they have a tough go of it. They're going to get Justin Jefferson back, which is great for them. But, I honestly don't see them winning out.
That's very fair.
They've got 5 games, 2 against a very tough division opponent.
Mm-hmm.
The final game, Detroit may not have to play all their players, but knowing Dan Campbell, he probably wants to smash anybody anyway.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to go out there and try to do it anyways if Minnesota's like hanging on by a limb.
Sure.
But then I looked at the other team that was like right on their heels too, and it's Seattle and the Rams. We already beat the Rams, so I'm not worried about that tiebreaker. And then there's Seattle, and Seattle's got a brutal schedule. They've got the 49ers this week. They got the Eagles the following week. Then they're at the Titans, which is whatever. Then they're home for the Steelers, and then they're at the Cardinals. But they just came off of playing the 49ers and Cowboys and getting, slapped around in those games. Now they got the 49ers and Eagles coming up.
Sure. Yep.
It's going to be tough for Seattle, too. So that's why I slot Green Bay in at the 6th spot, because even if Green Bay were to lose, say, the Minnesota game, they're still going to go 4-1 down the stretch, and they're still going to be 10-7.
Yeah.
And I think 10-7 at that point is going to be the 6th seed.
I don't disagree with you there.
The 3 seed currently, which would be Detroit again.
I feel like they have the golden opportunity to, in fact, do that, and they would be, just based on everything that I have laid out right here on this monitor that I'm pointing to that you can't see, but it's there. They certainly have the most, and I don't want to say easiest, but easiest kind of path. Like, they control their own destiny, I think is what I'm trying to get at, is they control their own destiny there.
As long as they do what they're supposed to do against teams they're supposed to do it against, then yes, they should. As long as they stay healthy, obviously if Jordan Love goes down, that's going to change a whole bunch of things.
Oh, of course.
But
we don't want that. Knock on wood.
3 games in a row, he's 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's, he's alone in the pack right now with this stuff. Like, he is playing at a high level right now. Some of the throws that he's making are stuff that you watch and you're like, I've seen Aaron Rodgers do that. And then people bring out film and they're
absolutely
like, that exact same thing.
Indeed. So I'll tell you this.
The benefit of a guy being able to sit and watch, and that's what they were hoping for with Zach Wilson.
Yep, and unfortunately that did not work out, but hopefully it will soon. But in any event, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put a bow on it and wrap it up here. Brandon, our first podcast in eons. I love it. Let's do it again. Let's do it again very soon.
We need to.
Yes, absolutely.
Talk about and cover.
Oh, God. Hell yeah. But hey, thanks everybody for tuning in, giving us a shot again, and listening in to the Listen In podcast. I want to let you know really quickly, I'll be appearing at the Marketplace Mall January 14th. Upstate Pro Wrestling presents Wrestle Bowl. Don't know what I'm doing yet, but I'm doing something. Get your tickets online at upstateprowrestling.com as well. Support the podcast, support me, support Gear Network by buying yourself a nice comfy t-shirt like I am wearing right now, prowrestlingtees.com/thejcmoney. Please, thank you. Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, and eventually I'll roll out the Patreon page in full to give you the option to sign up for there. And if you do, if and when you do, you'll be able to view this video of this podcast right here and our two beautiful faces. So thank you again for tuning in, Brandon. My friend, good day to you, sir.
Good day to you.
So long, everybody. Good night now, Flava Flav. How about a yeah, boy, for the return of Listen In? Yeah, boy! The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.